Hello, I'd like to talk to you today about how to give presentations. Some people love giving presentations, some people hate them. And I think sometimes one of the things that is perhaps difficult is that a presentation is in fact a performance, but we don't say so. So I thought I would say so because that might maybe help a little bit. And that performance will always be based on storytelling. You'll always be telling the story of something. We all tell stories all the time. We all learn from the stories that we hear from other people. So storytelling is really an everyday activity, and thinking of it that way can be helpful when you have a presentation to give. Another tip is to give information in at least two ways. The classic thing is someone who's speaking with PowerPoint slides going along beside them. But there are many other ways that you can do this. You can bring in poetry or music or dance if you have the skills. You can hold up placards, you can wear costumes. There's all sorts of things that you can do to give information in more than one way. And this isn't just about making it engaging and fun for people, although that's also a good idea. There is evidence that people will understand better and remember more if you give information in at least two different ways. So it's worth doing because if you're going to give a presentation, surely you want the people who you're presenting to understand what you're telling them and to remember what you're telling them. Another good tip is don't try to cram in too much stuff. If you're doing a standard sort of 15 or 20 minute perhaps conference presentation, you can probably only really get between 1 and 3 messages across, 3 maximum. 1 is fine, you can put lots of detail around it, 2 maybe. But just keep it simple. I know I've said give information in at least 2 ways, but within that, keep it simple. So if you're using PowerPoint, don't load up the slides with lots of text and lots of graphs, and definitely don't read out your slides to your audience because they can almost certainly read them for themselves. Put things on the slides that will be helpful for them, say different things. That way you're certainly giving information in really 2 different ways. You can use creative elements, as I've already suggested. Another thing you can do with presentations that people don't always consider is collaborate. Present with someone else or more than one person. Make sure it works. Don't just do it for the sake of it, but it can be very useful to have different perspectives, and also then you've got more than one person to take questions at the end, and that can spread the load. You can use innovative methods. There's a lovely example, a woman called Kate Watson. I think she's now at Stirling University in Scotland. She was studying homeschool partnerships. This was before the pandemic. And it was about the way families and schools work together to support children's pupils. And one of the children in her study was diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And she was struck by the fact that the narratives of the professionals was very different from the narrative of the family. The professionals had a nice linear narrative about how this diagnosis came to be. For the family, it was a series of disjointed events beginning with the pupil forgetting his school tie one day. And Kate Watson wrote some satirical scenes of dialogue, as if scenes of a play, just odd scenes, not a whole play or anything. She based it on the Hogarthian methods, very much using satire to point up the question of who is deviant here, where is the absurdity, where is the madness, if you like. And when she came to deliver her presentation, she asked for volunteers from the audience to come and take parts from these scenes and to deliver them to the audience on the spot with no rehearsal or practice. I think she must have been quite brave to do that. But apparently it worked very well, although she was interested to find that some of the people reading the parts put emphasis where she hadn't intended it to be, which just goes to show that there are different ways of reading a situation. So that was a very innovative way of presenting. And if you can think up something along those lines or differently innovative, then you could give that a try. But whatever you plan to do, I would say that regardless of Kate Watson's example, practice makes perfect. If you're nervous about giving a performance, telling a story, using visual aids, or whatever it is that you're doing, then practice it. Practice it until you can almost do it in your sleep, and then you will be really confident that it will go well.